In this tutorial, we're going to cover Adobe Illustrator class, and we're going to book Chapter 6, and this is part 2 where we're actually creating some artwork with the pen tool and creating this logo for Bullseye Copy. We have to draw all these individual elements, and it will take time and patience, and that's okay. Let's go ahead and make sure you start with the L6 start file. You're going to notice that we've got kind of a dot to dot already drawn for us. That's going to be our template we're going to build off of. So let's do a file, save as, and let's call it L6 coffee cup, and say save. And okay, yes. So you see here we've got 3 different artboards. If you go to your layers, you're also going to notice we've got 3 different layers here available that we're going to be turning on and off as we go. So eventually you will turn off this template in order to create your final work for what you're creating for eventually your publication. So if you eventually, I would say go through, create the artwork first, then go back and edit accordingly for however you're going to use this one element in your publication. So I'm going to go ahead and turn text off because we don't need to look at that right now. Make sure again our fill is set to none. Our stroke is black at 1 point, so it makes it easy to see. And let's go ahead and start drawing this coffee cup. So let's grab our coffee cup. Let's go to View, Fit Artboard and Window. So you can see we've got kind of a dot to dot set here. But you can't just go from, with your pen tool, from A to B to C. We want to make sure we're on the artwork layer. So if you're not, it won't let you do anything. So you can see you can't just go A, B, C, D and get what you need, unless you're making a really funky coffee cup, which we're not. So I'm going to do Control Z and undo all that. So one of the first things we're going to do is start here with A. A's got a blue dot, and it's going to tell us where to start. So we're going to do our click and drag up to that red dot, and let go. We're going to come up here to B, click in the middle, drag to our red dot. Alright, we're going to come here to C and go to the middle of that one. Now remember, now we can do a straight line. We want to make sure that this anchor point is actually set as a corner point instead. So let's make sure that we go over, click, so we get the caret, and change it into a corner point so it knows that we're changing directions. Alright, let's go here to D and drag out so it knows what we're doing, that we're changing directions. So and let's make sure this one is set. We can set that to a corner point as well if we want to. Let's go ahead and click and drag up to E. Come over to F. It's another click and drag. Come down here to G. Now G's got a couple things going on, because you'll see that we need to actually do a couple of things in order to get this line to match here. So the first thing we're going to do is going to go to the gold dot. We're not going to let go. We're going to hit Alt or Option, and we're going to come over here to the red dot. Once we're at the red dot, we've got a new direction line. Go ahead, release that mouse, release your direction line. So now you see we can change directions over to this new one. So same thing goes for H. We're going to drag to H first. We're going to hit Alt, and then we're going to come down to H because we need to turn that direction. So we're kind of creating a little lump underneath the handle of our whatever it is, the cup. So I don't really like the way this looks right now. So what I can do while I'm still in my path, you see I'll go between C and D, I get a plus sign, and I can actually undo. You should be able to get it to turn into a little, undo. You should get it to turn into a little round one. And of course it's not doing it right now, so I'm not going to worry about messing with that right this second. Alright, let's go ahead, and we need to get from H to I. So let's go to I, Let's grab our gold, hit our Alt, and I don't love that. That's not it. So let's go ahead and drag up to H. Now, let's go to here, drag to our gold, don't let go, Alt, come down to red, come down to I, drag and hold, down to our red and our gray, let go, come over here to this dot, let's go to K, let's go here to the next dot, come up and hold, drag up to L, and then we're going to come over here to A, and we're going to close that path. So now we've got, if we turn off template, we've got the basic shape for your cup itself. You can go in, take your direct selection tools, and adjust those paths a little bit. It's kind of really pointy, so maybe you don't like how pointy that is. You can always go in and adjust that accordingly. So we've gone through, we've got the basic outline of our cup, and it's going to take a few times before you get that totally perfect, happy, and right. So the book goes into a lot of details. It will help you even more. Just make sure you're paying attention to the template and being really patient. So one of the next things we're going to do is, you notice this has this funky spoon. So we're going to add that spoon layer next. So let's go ahead and switch artboards. And let's go ahead and grab our spoon. So we're actually going to draw with what's called the curvature tool this time. So it's the pen with the line on it next to the pen. And the curvature tool lets you do things that are smooth and refined without having to edit a lot of direction lines. So let's go ahead and we're going to draw half the spoon, and then we're going to reflect. We're going to make a copy and make the other side. So you don't have to get it totally perfect twice. Alright, so let's grab that curvature tool. It works because it creates anchor points that draw and flex. So if I click on A and go to B, you notice that we get kind of some funky stuff going on. So let's go ahead, undo, and let's make sure we've got our curvature tool chosen. And we want to go ahead and click on A and go up to B. And I want to come over here to C. And we want to come over here to D. Now you notice that it's curving as we go. So I'm going to come up to E. I'm going to come up to F here. So we're just kind of playing connect the dots. And let's go here to G. And at G, we want to go ahead and hit Shift and come up to H. You notice we get a much straighter piece. I don't like how that looks. So let's go ahead and come here. Click and hold, hit Shift. Oh. And I don't love that. So let's undo our last couple. Let's go ahead, and what happens when we hit Alt and come over here to H? Notice we get kind of a different result. So I'm going to do undo a couple times. And just kind of, I want you to get in there and play with it a little bit. So let's go ahead and go back to point F, because that's where we need to change things. If we actually double click this right here, it's actually going to change this into a corner point. So you'll notice we don't curve quite as much. So it kind of tells it to stop turning at that point. So this is cool, but not quite right yet. So let's come down here, and I want my spoon to come down a little farther. So what I can do with my curvature tool is actually drag it and drag it down to that red spot right there. So now I actually have a pretty good spoon. I'm going to hit enter, close that off, and it's not closing, so that's awesome. Let's hit escape, and that'll turn it off. Alright, so I might want to come in here and move that over just a little bit, because if this part gets too skinny, your spoon gets really funky looking in the middle. Alright, so I've got that, hit escape, and I'm going to close that. So now I need to make the other side of the spoon. So let's go ahead and reflect that shape. So if we go here under template, let's go ahead and hide that for now so we can see what we have and we don't accidentally select any of those items. Let's go ahead and turn our smart guides back on. So let's go to view and turn our smart guides back on. Let's grab our selection tool and select our half of the spoon that we have so far. If we go in the tools bar and look under rotate, you'll find the reflect tool. Alright, so with reflect, we want to go ahead and go over the top. It's going to turn to anchor, but we want to push Alt at the same time, and it's going to pop up a menu for us. We want to make sure that our choices are vertical are chosen, and that we go ahead and tell it to copy, preview and copy. So now we have two sides of our spoon. But you'll notice if you click with your selection tool, each one is separate. We want to actually join those paths so that it's one piece. So we're going to grab our selection tool, grab the whole thing, and we're going to hit Control J or Command J a couple times. And now I have one single path instead of two paths and a single spoon. So it's not bad so far. It's a little pointy though, so we can play with that. Let's go ahead and grab our direct selection tool, click up here at the top, and let's drag across here. You'll notice we get those bullseyes, those live corner widgets, which we learned in the other lesson. You can kind of pull on and round out that spoon just a little bit. So it's not quite as evil looking as it was before. Let's do a Control S and say what we've got so far. Let's go ahead and come in here to our view. We're going to turn Smart Guides off again for a minute. We're going to grab our selection tool. We're going to grab our spoon. We're going to do a Control C to copy or an edit copy. We're going to come over here to our artboard with our coffee cup and do a Control V or paste. And for now we're just going to stick our cute little spoon right over here on the side. So one of the next things we want to play with is adding that inside of the coffee cup. So we want to actually make it seem like it has a handle. So we're going to do Control plus and zoom in a little bit, see a little bit more. We're going to grab our direct selection tool, and we only want to select just part of the handle. If we grab too much, it will actually make this a lot harder than it has to be. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is go to Edit. We're going to go to Copy. We're going to do Edit. We're going to do Paste in Front. So now what we've done is we have duplicated this ear shape part of the thing we've got so far. So let's go ahead and do a Command J. And notice how it grabbed that top part. So clearly when I did my selection, I did too much. So I'm going to back up to my selection, grab my direct selection, make sure I grab just this part, and I'm going to do my copy, edit, paste in place, and Control J. And now we get just we're just closing that one part. And yes, I know it's not perfect yet, but this is going to turn into our inner section for that cup. So let's go ahead and grab our direct selection tool on this path. And you notice that if we pull on it, we can pull just that part of the path in. So we can actually take and drag in, make it a little bit smaller, or there's another way to do it as well. I'm going to do a Control minus, grab my selection tool, hit my Shift, and bring that whole shape in so that I've got control over it. And it's not quite right yet, so notice I've got kind of different parts going on. So I can adjust the way that is looking if I play with my direct selection tool. So grab my direct selection, grab that path, and I can grab, so you get that curve, and you can change the way that's going to look. You can play with it and make it look a little bit more of how you like it. So kind of bring it in a little bit. Make it a little bit smaller. Bring that down a little bit. So play with it until you get the curve of that cup to look the way you want. And then you've got this weird little bubble right here, which you may or may not like. It's kind of weird. So I'm going to go ahead, grab, and pull that in just a little bit and play with it till I get it where I want it. You can also grab your selection tool, select back out, come back in, direct selection, grab just this guy. And I'm not loving what I'm getting there. It's up to you as to how you're going to play with that little nub that's part of that. So let's go ahead and look at the bottom of the cup and actually make it look a little bit more like the bottom of a cup. Let's go ahead and grab our direct selection tool and use the pen tool. Let's go over the anchor points bottom here at the bottom. And let's hit this anchor point right here in the middle of the bottom, because what we're actually going to do is play with things a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and remove this anchor point. So let's go ahead and grab that pen tool, come up over here, and notice how it turns into a minus, which means I'm going to take it out. So let's go ahead and take out that anchor point. So now it's going to be a little bit smoother and a little bit easier. But we want to play with the shape a little bit more. So we want to add some anchor points and play with it a little bit. So let's go ahead, grab that pen tool, and come in. We're actually going to play with making more of a teacup bottom. So let's go ahead and add some anchor points. So here, if we go over, we get the plus sign. So let's go ahead and add a couple of anchor points in. So make sure you're on add the anchor point, not just... Now that's taking it apart. So let's grab our direct selection so we can kind of see what's going on. So I've got that anchor point there. Let's go ahead and grab the pen and draw another one in right there. All right, so now I've got two anchor points that I'm going to play with. So what can I do with those? We want to actually convert and smooth those points between those anchor points. So let's go ahead and make sure that we've got them where they want. Let's leave this last one selected, which is where we just were, and grab our direct selection tool. And let's grab that and convert it to a anchor point. So we learned how to do that. If you go up here to your corner button in your properties, it says convert. So we're converting this point. Instead of being a smooth point, we now want it to be a corner. So change it to a corner, and let's go ahead and change this one as well to a corner. So why are we doing that? We're trying to do that so that we can change things just a little bit. So with both points selected, so we need to have this one selected, let's shift, let's click this one. With both of them selected, we can actually push this one section down. So we're going to go ahead and make sure our align options are open, and let's align the bottom. So it's going to align those a little bit better. This one doesn't look like it's selected very well. So we want to make sure that that one is a corner point. So make sure it's converted to a corner point. And that one is a corner point. And let's align those in the bottom. And let's go ahead, and if we hit the down arrow 5 times, notice that we are now extruding the bottom of that cup. So we're actually creating the flat part of it. Let's go ahead and do a select and a deselect, or you can go ahead and click out on the artboard. So if you click out, you can kind of see we now have the base of a cup going on. It's not quite perfect yet. It's going to get better. So let's go ahead and grab the direct selection tool, and we want to click on the path so we can see where our anchor points are. I'm going to zoom in a little bit better so we can see. And I want to go ahead and grab this anchor point right here on the bottom, and I want to change it so that it's a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and I'm going to shift click the one above it, because those are the two I want to be straight. I'm going to come over here to align, and I'm going to tell it to be horizontal align left. So now it's going to pop that out. So let's do the same over here. Click on the bottom one, click on the top, and let's align right. So now our cup looks like it won't actually tip over, which is pretty cool. Alright, so what else can we do? We want to go ahead and work with that anchor point tool just a little bit more. So if we go into the pen tool, we notice that we get one called anchor point tool that lets us play with a few things. It lets us add and delete anchor points. So we're going to actually convert some of these points from smooth points, the ones that have direction handles, into corner points. So we want to go ahead and grab this one right here, the bottom left corner of your teacup, and click and drag. And you can kind of see right now it's not behaving, it's not doing what we want it to do. So I want to click and drag and convert that anchor point, and I can actually pull it up and down now because it was a corner before, and I can do it the same over here and give it a little bit of space, a little bit of roundedness so it's not quite so square, and convert that just a little bit. Let's do a Control S and save our coffee cup that we've got so far. Alright, so let's go ahead and stop this one, and let's pick up with creating the rest of the elements here in just a little bit.